With that, ladies and gentlemen, after gathering all those entrepreneurial insights, let's now quickly move ahead. As I had promised, we have back-to-back fireside chats lined up. That being said, our next session features none other than Mr. Varun Alagh, who is the co-founder and CEO, Honasa Consumer, Mamaearth. And joining Mr. Varun Alagh in order to spearhead the session, we have with us Mr. Anurag Gupta from Accenture, India. So it's going to be another very interesting chat coming your way. So as I had mentioned, fireside chat, which means a feisty round of applause. Let's have that applause going up in the air, and let's invite both of our speakers here. I think we are really super stoked about this particular chat coming our way, so I'm going to quickly hand over the proceedings to Mr. Anurag Gupta. Can't wait for the session to get started. Over to you then. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Varun, for accepting the invite to be part of this fireside chat. As our host and anchor said, this is a fireside chat. It has to be feisty. All right. So, Varun.
I think I've had enough feisty for the quarter.
For the quarter,
okay.
is it? No, clearly, you are the co-founder and CEO of Honasa Consumer. We all know Mamaearth is the brand. Obviously, you're a house of brands now. There are multiple brands, but Mamaearth is the largest and obviously the first one that you built. And we've all heard about your story of how you were as young parents, struggling to get the right products for your newborn, and that's how this idea germinated. We are sitting in the India Digital Summit, right? So we want to clearly hear from you the role of digital in your journey at Honasa, because 2016-17 is when you started. In 6 years' time, the scale-up that you've had in your business, the rapid growth, the fact that you've turned profitable and you're at the cusp of an IPO. It is a very, very successful story, an exciting one. So we'll all be very, very keen to hear it from you. How's been the journey?
No, of course, the journey has been amazing. Right? We didn't expect to be where we are today so quickly. But what we did expect, and I think, like you rightly said, we were a set of young parents looking for better options for our child. And we are representative of what you can call the evolving India. And this India is not okay with denominator options. This India doesn't want to, compromise with the same sort of options which have been ongoing, but give me a bigger pack size. Right? For decades, that's how, larger companies have been treating the entire India. Right? That, you launch a product, you put it in 1 million stores. There is small pack, which is for, the India, which is the mass India, and there is large pack, which is for the evolved India. And I think India is evolving beyond that, right? And we were an example of that generation and cohort who were looking for more from brands. Right? We were more aware, more educated, and we wanted our brands to treat it with that respect. Right? We knew what label reading was. We knew what ingredients could be harmful in personal care. Right? And hence we expected to be offered mixes, right, which are in line with our expectations. Right? And that's what is happening to a large part of the middle class and above India, right, which with the knowledge of mobile phones in their hands and access with them, are able to latch on to trends, information, are able to research really well around the choices that they want to make. Right? And if a category is even medium level of involvement, right, which personal care is medium level of involvement, baby care is actually high level of involvement, right? Because whatever you're choosing for your face or your baby's skin, you're actually researching before making that choice. Right? And when you research, you come across a lot of these pieces, and that's where journey of a consumer is starting. And it's no more starting by going into a store and asking ki acha kya hai baby lotion mein mujhe, can I get it, right? I mean, that is changing because of access to information and digital content. And that's where we were coming from. We had access, right? We were wanting different products, right? but we did not find those options, right? We found those options in Europe, we found those options in US, we started calling on to our Masi, Chacha and saying, matlab, can you please bring this lotion when you're coming back? And it was just painful. I mean, why should an Indian consumer, and by the way, we are not small in number, and just the SCCA of India is close to 8.5%, which is 100 million population, right? That is more than the population of half the Europe, possibly, right? And that's 4 times more than probably Korea's population, South Korea, right? And our personal care market is actually half of them, right? So this population clearly is expecting more evolved mixes, more evolved brands, right? And with the advent of internet and e-commerce, right, it was possible to build products, brands, and propositions, right, which you can take to this cohort, right, and not just serve them with a proposition, but also fulfill that need physically by delivering that at their doorstep, right? So I think that was the biggest, driver of our belief that we could actually do this and build a business out of it. And if these two did not exist, and I don't think we would have been able to scale to the extent that we have scaled, right? So I think technology and the fact that this disruption was happening both on media and distribution side, right, is the core reason why we've been able to scale.
That's fantastic. So you were obviously a startup, right? 6 years back. So what you're essentially...
We still are.
You still are a startup.
Hearts.
At heart, yeah, and that's how it should be. So you were a startup then, right? And as founders, you came in, you saw the trends, you saw a more aspiring India. You saw essentially the whole explosion of internet and mobile commerce and so on and so forth. And without the deep pockets of an established CPG player, you believed that you could now, set up a successful business. So is that a big change that we are seeing? Because usually in the FMCG business, we see the entry-level barriers have been high. You can build a 100 crore business, 50 crore business, but taking it to 1,000 crores plus is usually difficult. We haven't seen a lot of successful examples.
So I think I'd say 2 things. One, we benefited a lot from the emergence of shared economy, right? And distributed media, right? Democratization of media, sorry. Right? Shared economies, for example, I mean, you don't need to put your own sort of, finance team to start with. You don't need to you have shared financial ecosystems. You don't need to invest in your own warehouses. There are companies which are available to serve your warehousing needs. There are so many SaaS products available to actually build a website and serve your consumer right with the right experience, right? And all of these and more, even the manufacturing ecosystem in the way it has evolved, right, are shared economy outcomes. And that has just made starting a company and focusing on your core competence far more easier. Right? Our core competence was innovation, marketing, and sales. Right? And that's what was core that we wanted to focus on. So R&D, innovation, marketing it to the right consumers and selling it to the right consumers. Outside of this, ideally, to start with, I would like to not invest in anything else and use shared ecosystems to sort of build that out. Right? Similarly, on the media side, right, one of the biggest barriers used to be the quantum size of media that you had to buy. Right? Yeah, right. I mean, TV or print or any of those mediums, right, were far larger in terms of smaller ticket size that you could buy, right? Smallest that you could buy would also be very high in terms of size, right? And it will have very poor targeting capabilities, right? And I think for us, the big thing was the fact that you could buy media at 500 rupees a day, right, on a Facebook or a Google search ecosystem, right? And you could target very specifically the area, the kind of cohort, the kind of TG that you're wanting to reach. Right? You're far sharper and you're starting small. Right? And that leads to my third point, which is what you're saying, that building a 50 or 100 or 1,000, all of that. Right? I think the good thing about an FMCG business, right, that they are usually high margin businesses, right? And as you sell, you actually generate money. And if you can find models in which your scalability effectively happens in concentric circles, right, of, let's say a D2C or a e-commerce, and then a modern trade, then an offline, right, where each layer that you add brings more scale, right, but also brings more cash and is ideally more profitable than the next layer. And automatically that circle, right, allows you to build a capital efficient business, right? So effectively, honestly, to build 1,000 crores brand, right, we've spent zero. Right, over the 6 years, net, it's been a zero burn journey. Right? Because we did invest something earlier, we did sort of burn something earlier, but then over time, we were able to become negative working capital because we had that sort of frugality in our minds to start with. And secondly, because we had a certain model in our mind, and we were able to recover all that we had spent, right? So it's possible through this model that we are kind of developing, and to build large-scale brands, and without any significant investment, both in burn and in working capital.
That's fantastic to see some of the entry barriers in the industry coming down. Another area where typically success rates for the industry have been low is the success rate for innovation, right? I mean, if we talk to the industry veterans, they will all say success rate in innovations in the FMCG industry have been below single digits. What's been your experience on the back of the whole, leveraging the digital ecosystem? Do you see your success? Obviously, your success rate seems much higher.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the industry can start thinking of a much higher success rate leveraging digital?
I honestly, it all depends on how does the industry want to define success, right? We have, at least for our internal benchmarks, defined success very differently. We are a company which is born on the internet, born digital first. Right? And internet truly exists to serve the needs of long tail. Right? It exists, if you will search the weirdest search queries, right, or the weirdest kind of problems and products, right? Internet will throw solutions at you. And that's what it exists to do. Right? And if a company wants to truly be internet first, they need to respect that long tail and provide solutions to that long tail. And build a model through which that long tail solutioning is not expensive to serve. Right? I mean, let me take an example. We have a small product that we had started in second year of our existence, which was based on an insight that Indian parents don't like to give gripe water to kids, right? Because in the first 6 months, you just want to give mama's milk, right? And hence we rub hing and coconut oil on babies' tummies, right? And I'm sure most of you would be able to sort of relate to that. And, now, no large, if you come and say, hey, this is a market opportunity, say, yaar, 3 mahine ki problem hai, uske baad to any which ways it goes away, right? Why serve this market? What is this? This could be a 10 lakh a month product. What's the point? Right? Now, that's not how we have thought or we will think in future. We have always felt that there are about 10,000 to 15,000 people searching for this specific solution, how to make it, etc. on Google. Now, if there was a product which was convenient to use product, 25 to 30% of them will just look at that product and buy it. And you don't need to market that product, and you don't need to do anything about it. It just needs to be available. Now, from a fulfillment perspective and manufacturing perspective, we created such scalable models, right, that we can take small batch sizes, we can work with just one distribution point servicing the entire country, right? So this doesn't need to be distributed at all, right? So I mean, from that perspective, that product has been a very successful innovation because we've been able to serve 30 to 40% of this search interest which was getting generated. And we didn't need to spend any money, so that product makes money as a P&L alone. Right? And it spreads such wonderful word about the brand, right? Because no other brand is listening to you the way we are. Right? No other brand is crafting products to make your life easy, and by understanding what you want. And And that is our spirit of innovation. And our model allows us to be long tail. We don't judge a product or an innovation which can solve a consumer's problem by saying, can it be put in 10 lakh stores or not? And we won't reject it like that. And we would be able to launch it in a very, a very small manner, and then scale it over time and see how it is shaping. And one day it might just become a 100 crore SKU for us, yeah, right? So, which is what something like when we had launched an onion shampoo or an onion oil, right? People used to like say, used to pitch to like, investors who are not from India, right? And they used to, what? Onions and oil? What are you doing? And we would say, man, people use onion juice in India. And this is a convenient way, because otherwise they find it smelly and the experience is not great. If you can deliver it in form of products, people will buy. And it genuinely started with a small experiment and is 20% contributor to our revenues now. So I think we have done that in the past. We will continue to serve consumer needs also in future, and not apply the lens of, is it successful by the metric of what traditional success looks like. And success should be defined if we've been able to fulfill consumer needs or not.
That's fantastic. You've touched upon how you have used digital to understand consumer searches, preferences. You've used e-commerce platforms to obviously fulfill demand. In this, the whole role of technology, data, AI, how do you see that? I mean, have you been able to leverage that? Is that something that you see has a much bigger role as you build your business?
Absolutely. I think data, first of all, lies at the heart of our company. Like I said, we are born digital first, and hence there is a lot of comfort in taking decisions which are data-based. Right? In fact, at one point of time, we had 114 different dashboards inside the organization. Every function had 7 or 8 dynamic dashboards, which are BI operated every day, refreshes, and they're taking decisions basis that. So I think data is at the very heart. Right? In fact, even for taking the minutest of consumer decisions, right? So I mean, so we recently launched a product which is for anti-dandruff proposition, which is a lemon and ginger shampoo, right? That's a ingredient which very commonly gets used as DIYs, and there are actually citric acid and science behind how it works, right? And the question was, should it be called lemon shampoo or lime shampoo? And now you could take a gut-based call, right, and saying, "Yaar, ye better lag raha hai, isko dal do." Right? But the fact that we have 5 million consumers, right, who visit our websites every month, right, and we have live access to these consumers, right? We just don't treat them as data points, right? We actually treat them as opportunities to engage and take these decisions well. So we've got a technology which helps us get, we ask these questions, and in about 24 hours, 1,000 consumers will answer and tell us, okay, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. So even minutest of decisions like that, right? Design, nomenclature, packaging, promo, propositions, right? Media habits and understanding, right? Which OTT do you run an ad on, right? All of these get taken by asking the consumer, analyzing that data, and sort of, taking a call on top of that. Just one example in one area of how we're using data. There are so many other areas. You talked about AI. We are using for example, in a brand like Derma Company, which is a brand which is around skincare concerns. Right? You come on the app, you can actually just, we can scan your face, we can specifically tell you which parts of the skin, which kind of problems, and then recommend a range of products which are most suitable for your journey today. And if you come 2 months down the line, those products have worked, right? We'll actually show you the difference between last picture and today's picture, right? And we'll say, okay, now, right, you should start using this. So if you had active acne, we'll start you probably with a salicylic acid. We'll get the active acne in place. 2 months down the line, when you come, the active acne is settled, we'll actually recommend a niacinamide, right, which will take care of the marks that the acne leaves, right? So this is an automated journey, right? The AI will do it themselves. So I think there is a lot of use case across the company around how we can use data, right, to actually deliver better to our consumers and build stronger engagements with them around our brands.
think you briefly mentioned about concentric scaling up, right? So the whole digital first model that you've built, you're now profitable, you're growing rapidly. So you leverage data, leverage digital, understand what consumers want, roll out the innovations, and then scale it up offline as well. So you've successfully scaled offline as well. We haven't seen a lot of D2C or digital native brands, also scale up offline successfully. But your model and your business seems to suggest that it's a very successful way of actually scaling up, because otherwise commerce online today is only 10 to 15% of the overall category. So would you say that this is now a proven model to be able to, let's say, leverage digital for your innovations and thereafter scaling it up over time into offline?
I think for us, it's clearly something which has been proven not just on one brand, but we are seeing that happening on other brands as well. And where you craft the brand on D2C and you build it on e-commerce marketplaces, and then you scale it profitably in offline, right? So I think that's how we see those concentric circles coming to life, right? And for each brand journey, we clearly have certain benchmarks. Okay, now it has hit this level in terms of PMF and craft, and hence it's ready to go to the next concentric circle and focus on that. Now it's hit that level. Now let's go into imagery, modern trade stores, and sort of build that out, right? So it is a clear, structured approach to brand building in the digitally connected world, right, that we are seeing, and which is a much more, which is an approach which is much more efficient in nature, and because at all points of time it targets the right customer cohort, right? The early adopter is only shopping online now, right? And there is no point taking a new innovation or a new proposition of a brand, right, and putting that directly in offline, because you want to reach out to the early adopters first, and it's right for the brand because you will get right kind of feedback. They're extensive users of category, right? You will also be seen being used by the right consumers, which then spreads the right word of mouth. So I think that's how we look at this model, and at least our view is that's the model to build brands in the digitally connected world.
And what's the journey ahead? What's the road ahead for Honasa? Will you continue to sort of build scale on the back of this, or do you see your model evolving further?
No, I think, see, we are finally married to the consumer. And we strongly believe that as a company, that's our DNA. Right? Now, because the consumer, because the consumer was on Facebook, we were on Facebook. Consumer is on Instagram, we will move there. And consumer is shopping through e-commerce, and we will make sure that we are present there. And consumer moves to a different way of buying, we'll make sure we are leading that charge, right? So I think that sort of, challenging our own model and testing it out basis what the consumer needs, right, is something that we will keep doing. But finally, we are in the business of building brands. And brands are built in the mind of consumers. They are not built in D2C or offline, right? These are just route to markets. Right? And for all our brands, that's what we intend to do. We intend to create the right imprints, right associations, right engagements in the mind of consumers, right? So that when they think of that brand, the right associations sort of come up, right? And they then, the emotional engagement is so high that they want to buy us, right? And I think that's the model that we will continue to sort of invest in and scale the company.
And any words of advice for your established FMCG competitors?
I think, I'm myself a product of these amazing companies, and I have utmost respect for the brands that have been built. It's not easy to run companies with consistent growth record for 50 years, 70 years, right? We take inspiration from that, and we only have to learn from them. And I don't think I would have any words, right, of advice for sure. They are far more learned.
That is humility at its best, Varun. So we are just at the top of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, Varun, as he's laying out the entire new business model for FMCG, how you can leverage digital to actually, in a very cost-effective way, build a new business. If you're focused on leveraging, on listening to your consumer, digital offers a lot of those opportunities on being able to take new innovations to them in a cost-effective manner and then scaling it up in a concentric manner. So traditional models of FMCG where we said, oh, you need to have the distribution strength, you need to be able to invest in a minimum of 25, 30 crores per year per brand on TV if you just have to cover pan-India. I think those models are getting challenged by, I think, the model that we are seeing from Varun and Honasa. Thank you so much, Varun, for all that. We have a few seconds if there are any questions. Lots of questions. So we'll just have a couple of questions, Varun, if you're okay to take.
Absolutely.
Hi Varun. Hi Varun and Anurag. So again, congratulations for Mamaearth. I have one question around the discussion as you were telling about leveraging the internet, right? But the internet is not as safe as we think of it, right? Mamaearth being a very personal brand, like personal care, baby care, it's a very sensitive brand, I may say, in terms of consumers. And Mamaearth, if associated with all the unsafe categories, I would say. So how are you handling that? That would be my question. Like, again, you don't want to be associated with something unsafe, right?
I did not understand it very well. So what do we mean by not being associated with something unsafe? Can you give me an example?
Sure. So as you were saying about scaling up through internet, right? Scaling up through internet, buying a lot of media placements and reaching the target audience, right? But if you've reached your target audience, and for example, Mamaearth ad is placed besides the news of the Turkish earthquakes and the baby being buried under that, all of those things. So how is your brand protected from all of that?
No, very sort of relevant challenge. The good thing is the technology in terms of media placements and how publishers can now provide you certain negatives that you can add to your targeting has actually grown tremendously. And you can actually specifically put in negatives around some of these pieces, some of the content which might be radical in nature, some of the content which might be something that you don't want to be associated with. And in fact, some of specific channels, list of hundreds of them, which can be uploaded as no negatives, saying that, okay, I don't want to be run or seen on or along with these content. So I think that filter is growing and becoming stronger day on day. And we've been very extensively using it because we work very closely with Google and Facebook ecosystems to make sure that our communications don't end up being shown with the wrong kind of content. But that's what you have something to add.
No, I think you're absolutely right. One has to watch out for some of these challenges that will come up. I think in terms of the ethos, as I understand, of your business and your brand, that's very clear. So to that extent, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are actually out of time. If you can keep it short, or else we can take this
Can I
offline.
just take one question, please?
Sure.
Hi, Varun. You spoke about 114 dashboards and that you have 5 million people coming into your website. I myself bought my first Mamaearth product to your website. Do your customers ever talk about language barriers?
About?
Language barriers.
So that is actually, that's actually something new that we've been working on. And, to be honest, I'm a very strong believer that actually vernacular should do really well in the world of e-commerce. But it's so surprising. We've tried like hundreds of experiments, right? Vernacular ads, landing to vernacular landing pages and selling pages, right? And no real uplift, actually drop in. And there's a reason why, in fact, the largest commerce horizontal marketplaces also largely operate in the non-vernacular world. So while in customer service, we have actually executed it, right? So that, if there is a challenge, we can actually answer to you in your language on call.
Okay.
We're using now AI and working with MS and Google on figuring out how do we provide that same support in chat as well, right? So that actually AI can answer that question in your language to you. Right? But from a perspective of the visible interface, it has actually become very easy now to do. Right? That said, we have not seen the impact. Finally, what you want to see is a consumer, if they're able to buy in an easier manner, and if you've reduced friction, and they will reward you with reduced CAC, and by either taking a decision quicker or by buying more. And we've not seen any of those metrics moving in the vernacular side till now. And hopefully, or in the near future, if that happens, we will move quickly. I mean, the ability to move and the technology to move is so easily available now.
Thanks, Varun.
I think time's up, so if you can please take the two more questions. Okay, please. Can somebody please hand him a mic?
Hi, Varun. Hi, Anurag.
Hi.
So I'll ask a very quick question. And so my question is based on that you were telling that you're trying to be everywhere, you're trying to be present wherever the consumer is going. And there's a lot of chasing happening, right? And so the few of the listeners here has been also pointing out on brand safety and vernacular content and a lot of other issues. And I know Mamaearth is a brand which is I would say built on influencer marketing, right? So how do you see influencer marketing as a tool? And definitely there's a pros and cons to it. How do you implement these brand safety guidelines? And in terms of scalability, influencer marketing has always been a challenge. So your point of view on how you see it evolving with keeping Mamaearth as a brand that you want to grow in terms of various other challenges that you're facing till now, whatever you have faced.
So I think when we started off, and one of the insights that we latched on to was for a baby care category, and you could either reach out to a mother in a stage where the doctor is an influencer, or you could reach out to her in a stage where she's past that hurdle, right? And actually another mother is an influencer, right? Around her. That mother could be a colleague, could be a friend, and could be a part of her WhatsApp group, Lama's WhatsApp group that she's a part of, right? Or a Facebook group that she joins, right? And she was actually willing to trust them on their experiences far more than she was willing to trust the brand's communication, right? Because this is a usage-based experience, right? And we crafted the insight, moms trust other moms, right? And that was actually the genesis of our belief in using this medium as well, right? The insight has now evolved to millennials trust other millennials, right? More than they trust brands, right? And in that insight, right, influencer is one way to bring it to life, right? Which is using people who believe in you and your story, can present their experiences to consumers in the right manner. And just the whole philosophy of this, and hence, for example, rather than portraying just celebrities in your communication, in your consideration communications, actually portraying testimonials, right, of people who've used the products and them talking about their experiences and using that as media and communications, right, is also a way to bring that same insight to life, right? So what's important is not just the medium, which is now being turned in influencer marketing. At that time was blogger marketing, probably 5 years down the line will be a live commerce marketing or whatever it will be called, right? The more important point is the underlying insight, right, of what this new generation believes in, and who is the medium from which it is willing to hear your story far more than others. So I think that's how we've looked at it. Sure, ma'am.
Hi. You mentioned the 1,000 responses on Lime and Lemon and things like that.
Yeah.
So is that based on Google Analytics? Like you select people to send your survey or whatever?
Not really. Not really. In fact, if you're on our website and if you're shopping, then we just send you a pop, right, and say your feedback makes us do better.
Wow.
And we would love for you to answer this question. What's your view on this, right? And consumers just surprise you. They genuinely want to engage with brands and make sure that they are able to give their views to brands to make their lives better.
That's good to know.
And that's so we directly ask these consumers and they give us answers.
And how many dashboards do you have presently, roughly?
Similar number, honestly.
Oh,
Thank you.
He definitely needs to rationalize it. 114 is a lot.
Thank you, thank you.
Right, if there are no more questions, I think, thank you so much,
Thank you,
Varun.
thank you, thank you
Big
for
round of
having me.
applause for Varun for being so candid.
Thank you very much. And if I could request you to step forward, both of you, for a quick photo op.